know I love it.
All right, welcome back to How to Invest in Commercial Real Estate, and we are here with another exciting topic. But before we get into that, we wanted to remind everyone that we are closing on our brand new development in Owasso, Oklahoma.
Nice.
Brian, what is it? What's the development?
The development is a 13,000 square foot multi-tenant retail. We have 5 tenants.
5 tenants, one's a ground lease.
Pretty much all pre-leased, and it's in a really good area of Owasso.
So that deal was a $1.4 million equity raise. We talked about it before, but it was $1.4 million. We oversubscribed in a few hours, and that money will be invested for about a year, maybe 18 months, but about a year, and it will get a 30 to a 40% return.
Yeah, nice.
I mean, on the low side, you're hitting 20%, and I want to remind people.
You sure about that? Are you?
I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good.
I do too.
I would say between 20 and 30 is probably the target.
But anyway, how many people are investing in things that are targeting to get them 20 to 30% outside of, crypto doubling and going to the moon?
Yeah.
You mean going straight down?
Yeah, going straight down to nowhere. But like we've talked about, a lot of things are getting pinched and pressure putting on. And there's a lot of money being lost and created in the market. But real estate, even in this time with this debt environment and everything going on, we're investing a lot of money in the hopes and what we believe will get a great return. And I just want to stress the importance of that. You got to get your money working, even in times like this when everything is going down.
I'm not investing in anything else that's, anywhere close, 20%, and as low risk as this. So,
yeah, I still feel like we have more downward pressure on the market over the next few months. So I think it's going to work its way down, and they're going to stop maybe increasing interest rates. Then the market may start moving up sometime next year.
Yeah, I don't know what the timing is, but I agree with that.
Yeah, that's another point. Fed's meeting again here in a few weeks. They're most likely going to raise the interest rate again. That's going to continue to put more downward pressure on those sales prices and activity in commercial real estate. So it's going to be interesting. But anyway, we're closing on the deal tomorrow. It's super exciting. By the time you've seen this, we'll have already closed in Owasso, and we'll be exiting that deal in about a year.
Yeah.
Anyway, to dive into the topic today I wanted to really get into negotiating strategies, because from the moment you get into the game, meeting your first lender or meeting your first investor or trying to buy or sell your first deal, you're faced with those uncomfortable decisions, right? And that's the basis of negotiating. Somebody wants something, you want something else. You need to try to maybe meet somewhere in the middle and get a win in there.
Basically, you're negotiating through every step of the process of
part of the process
of buying commercial real estate.
Buying, details of the contract, the leases, all
debt.
of it. The debt, it's all a negotiation. Yeah. And we won't cover everything today, but we just thought we'd dive in high level and give you guys some ideas about some of the negotiating issues you're going to run into.
Yeah, so one we're in right now where we'll kind of start off is selling property, right? So when you sell a property or buy a property, you will get a due diligence period. And in that due diligence period, it allows you to inspect the property with earnest money in the title company, but the earnest money is refundable. Mm-hmm. So that way, if you cancel the contract, you may lose what you had in due diligence costs or inspecting the property or having an appraisal done or a survey done or whatever. Those are hard fixed costs, right? But you may have 20, 50, 100, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in earnest money, depending on the size of your deal. And after your due diligence period, that goes hard, is what we call it. It goes non-refundable. You can't get it back. If you cancel the contract, that money goes to the seller for essentially wasting their time. So we're selling deals right now. And even when we buy deals, there's always the matter of time, right? Nothing goes however long you say it will.
Is there a typical due diligence period in commercial real estate, would you say?
30, 45 days.
Okay.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. So at the end of that, 9 times out of 10, the buyer is going to say, hey, I need more time.
Yeah.
Right? We were in contract on a piece of land in Broken Arrow. We needed more time. The seller didn't want to give it to us. We canceled the contract. There's no playing games. We actually needed more time. We weren't trying to, negotiate anything. It's like, hey, man, we need 60 days. Well, you guys need to go hard with your earnest money, and then I'll give you 30. It's like, cancel that. Yeah. It's just not even ready.
Yeah, that just happened this week to us, right?
Yeah, and it's commonly referred to as kind of getting the seller pregnant. And what you mean by that is they're locked up in a contract. They can't do anything, hence the reference there. So that kind of gets you some leverage, but you need to do something, right? So, you guys were in a sale recently. Seller came to you, and how many days was he in contract with you at this point?
Yeah, towards the end of their due diligence period, they did what we're going to talk about in the next key, is they tried to retrade us, where they come back and because of the market or the condition of the property, they say we want a discount. And so we gave them that discount, but never as a seller give a discount unless you're going to get non-refundable earnest money in return.
So that's an amazing point that you should jot down if you're taking notes or a mental key. That if you're going to give something, get something in return.
That's right. And the best thing as a seller you can get is non-refundable earnest money, because at least you're saying, okay, I'm going to guarantee myself a sale, and in the event I don't get that sale, at least I get to keep some money for my time.
Yeah.
And so that, in that case, they went non-refundable, and they tried to retrade me a second time. And
so pause there. So they went non-refundable with, give me a guesstimate of a number.
$500,000.
They went, okay, so they went non-refundable with $500,000, and then they tried to retrade you again. So here's the fatal flaw.
Did they have any power at all? I mean,
I don't think so. I don't think they thought so. I think they thought that, well, this is a tough market. Interest rates are rising, and we're going to lower our price, but it's still probably as good as he can get on the market. Yeah. So Joel's just going to take it. But they underestimated, how bad I wanted to sell those deals. Yeah. And I'm not going to fire sell a deal just because they want me to. I'm going to focus on getting their $500,000 if I can. Yeah.
So they tried to retrade you knowing they have no leverage. What happened then? You had $500,000 non-refundable or hard.
Yeah, we tried to come up with a solution that they could buy it, but nothing they proposed made me comfortable or protected me as much as the $500,000. So at the end of the day, they didn't even, really cancel the contract. It expired. And now we're going to be seeking that earnest money from the title company. Now, what's going to happen, just for education's sake, title companies don't want to get involved in a lawsuit or in a dispute between parties. So typically they're not going to release it to me, let's say, even though they can see my argument, they see they went non-refundable. They're going to put their hands up and say, hey, we want a court to tell us what to do with this money. And so if that's the case, and if the case that the buyer won't release it, then we will have to sue them. And that's the next step that we're going to have to take, is we'll have to sue them for that $500,000, and then we spend money on attorneys, and everybody gets to decide whose money it is.
So to wrap up this due diligence thing, though, last week we had a similar situation. We're selling some out parcels.
Yeah.
And so the buyer came to us and said he needed more time. So we said, yeah, we'll give you more time. And your point about get something, if you give something, we gave them more time, but we told them to do some more earnest money, right, to give us more non-refundable.
Doubled, yeah.
Hard money, and they did it. And we gave them the extension, and everything's going to hopefully just go on down the road, and we're going to sell it.
Yeah, and there's no reason to not get something in return, because you have something they want, right? Something they agreed to buy, something that held value for them financially or whatever reason. They've already spent money. They've already spent tons of time. They're at the end of a month or 45 days wasting their money and time, also a little bit of your time. And when they get to the end and they need an extension, if they're willing to give you non-refundable earnest money, you're getting that money or a deal closed. So you want that. You have to have that. There's no reason as a seller. There is a reason. Not great ones. As a seller, where you should give them more time in exchange for nothing.
Yeah.
Right? The seller of our Broken Arrow land deal was the exact same way. We didn't have a lot of stuff. We tried for 60 days and we were working on this development plan. We asked for more time up front. They didn't give it to us. We told them it would take longer. They didn't listen. And here we are asking for the extension we knew we would need. Yeah. And here they are saying no. And I don't fault them. That's why I didn't get into this big argument with the seller on anything. I was like, hey, we'll cancel this and I'll come back to you when I have more information.
Yeah.
And that's what a seller should do. He should have I would have done the exact same thing that seller told you guys to do, is pound sand. Because if they give you an extension, the seller doesn't have any more information about whether you're going to close or not. It's like a poker hand, right? When you check, you're not gaining information. But if you bet, now you're gaining information. Do they fold? Do they raise? Yeah. And so he's calling your bluff, and he's saying, hey, it's non-refundable earnest money or you're out. And that way you make a decision, and he knows where you stand now, and he knows if you come back to him later that now he has an interested party. So it was the right move for him to make.
Yeah, and again, just to explore that further, if we had spent $10, $20, $30, $50,000 on surveys and soft costs and architectural documents, I may have been more willing to go non-refundable with $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. Yeah. But I didn't spend a penny. Everyone had been working for free for the promise of getting the job later. So the land was definitely not going to be the first penny I spent on the deal.
Yeah.
Anyway, you brought up something super important, information, right? And I think Brian brought this up earlier. When you're negotiating, the more you know about who you're negotiating with or what you're negotiating about or their motivation behind it, that's one of the first questions we ask sellers on the phone is, hey, why is this person selling the property? Or the broker will ask us, hey, who are you guys and why are you buying this property? You want to find out information so you know how to negotiate.
Information is power in this game. Information is leverage. And really, leverage is how you win in negotiating. But you don't know how much leverage you have unless you know what's happening behind the scenes. So, yeah, it is really important that you're gaining access to all of the possible information that you can have in any given transaction.
A lot of times when someone comes to me in any negotiation, when they say, okay, I want a lower rate or I want this rate or that rate or something, the first thing I do is start asking questions. Not yes or no or whatever, but start asking questions, get some knowledge, and then you can make a better decision on your
let me give you an example just to try here. So let's say you have a retail center and you've got a big tenant, and if you lost that tenant, it's going to be devastating for you. So the tenant comes to you.
I can think of a center like that.
Yeah, I have several. And let's say the tenant comes to you and they say, hey, you know, our lease is about up, and if we can't get a discount, it just doesn't work at this location, and we're looking to get another location, down the street. Your first gut reaction is, if I lose this tenant, I'm sunk. Yeah. I won't be able to make my mortgage payment. That is operating out of fear, and you never want to be negotiating from a place of fear. So what could help you is if you went and did some research and said, hey, there's no big boxes around here that they can fit in. They can't build because a new build's going to cost them double the rent they're paying you. How does their rent compare to other let's say gyms or big box type.
We have a Dollar Tree that's that way in Georgia, right?
Yeah.
That Dollar Tree's rent is nothing, and there's no way they're going anywhere in the trade area to get that rent. There's just no way.
And so all of that, then you begin, that knowledge gives you power and leverage in that negotiation, and I've used it before. And so then I come to the conclusion that, look, they're profitable. Let's say they gave me their financials or something. There's no way they can replace this low of rent. They're not going anywhere. This is a bluff. Yeah. And at least it allows you to understand under what conditions they might leave, and you don't operate from fear. Because so many times I see people negotiating from a position of fear.
And you're going to lose every time.
Yeah, I just tend to never want to negotiate out of fear. I will always call your bluff. If you're trying to scare me in any facet that I might lose or that something will be negative to me, my subconscious immediately checks that, and I say, okay, well, I'm going to do the opposite of whatever you're wanting me to do in that situation. And it tends to work out pretty well because typically the one that has the most leverage or the most confidence in negotiating is going to win.
I love that. That was funny. I bet your wife just loves that. I'm just going to do the opposite. Anyway.
All right. What do we got?
All right. So let's stick with that same example. You have a big tenant. You're at a shopping center. You're negotiating a lease. You know that they can't really go anywhere. Let's talk about negotiating leases a little bit, because a lot of people are business owners. A lot of people lease space. There's a ton of leasing going on. Some people own space and they're going to be doing lease renewals. Again, you're diving back into information. You want to know as much as you can about the tenant. You want to look up the data. You want to talk to your property manager. Hey, how's my tenant doing? If they're a restaurant, you want to go in there for lunch, on a busy day. And if they're dead, that should tell you something. If they're slammed and you have to wait in line, that should tell you something. Again, information is power. Okay, hey, they're not paying me any of this money. They're killing it. I've got to get a rent increase, right? And that brings up another point as well. An amazing book about negotiating is written by this guy, Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. I know we've read it.
Was that the guy that used to be like CIA or something?
FBI negotiator.
Okay.
He literally wrote the book, the FBI manual on FBI hostage negotiating. It's a great book, and it's kind of like a thriller, because he relates with the lease. You need to have a win-win, right? Because I'm a tenant. We're all tenants. We all need something, right? I need more rent. The tenant needs different things, and they're going to tell you. You just have to listen to them. So, rule number one in negotiations is active listening, because they're going to tell you what they need, and you need to be able to say yes. Yeah. And you need to be able to clearly articulate what you need, and you need them to say yes. Mm-hmm. So you've got to be able to carry that conversation and listen. Yeah. So you have to listen. Hey, Mr. Let's use a dry cleaner. Your lease is expiring. We need another 60-month lease, and then they're going to start complaining immediately because that's what people do. Oh, this place sucks. My heater is breaking down. The curb is, there's all these problems. I need dedicated parking spots. The guy next door to me stinks. He never throws out his trash. There's these lists of concerns, and you need to be taking notes. You need to be writing all of them down because you need to fix them. And those are the wins that's going to get you your win. Yeah. Right? Because our win is we need a better rate. This guy's got a list of complaints. 9 times out of 10, the complaint is never how much rent he's paying. I find that interesting, especially in lease negotiations. It's never, hey, I'm paying too much rent. There's always something wrong.
Yeah, trash.
Sometimes it's the rent, but they will always bring up issues.
So you fix those issues. You send a letter to the next door neighbor, tell him to take out his trash. You fix the curb. You have an HVAC guy go up and you're like, hey, I listed all of these things. I had a tenant tell me you want a smoking section in the property. A bench and a little cigarette butt thing made the guy happy. He was happy about that, and he gave me the rent I needed because his employees wouldn't smoke in front of his store. So it's little things like that get you a win-win and get you the rent you want.
I want to clarify something about a win-win. Win-win does not mean that they're winning. Win-win solutions means that they're getting what they want while you get what you want. Right. It's not about what they want or I won. It's really what do you want out of the negotiation, and how do you get what you want by at least opening your mind to the possibility of, okay, how can I get them something they want and still get what I want?
Or maybe think they're winning, and maybe they are in their eyes. So.
Yeah, that's right. So you should always approach, even being a cutthroat negotiator, approaching the situation from how do I get this person what they want, and being creative in doing that can help you win more often in a negotiation.
Yeah, it's hard to negotiate when on your side you're just saying no, pay it. I'm not going to do anything for you. If you act like you're working with them and you actually really are working with them, then they're much more agreeable and the negotiations are going to go better.
Yeah, for sure.
Probably be in your favor.
And specifically in retail, I love it because they'll complain, and that was mean. Okay. They'll complain about everything wrong, right? But then they'll complain about the triple nets. It's like, you can't have it both ways, man. You want me to fix everything, you need to pay more, not less. Yeah. Right? So let's break that down. The concrete repairs in front of your space are $8,000. Are you paying for that or am I paying for that? We're both paying for that. Yeah. If you paid nothing, I couldn't pay for that. It would be a dump, right? So do you want... Great.
Son of a...
Yeah. Anyway, you got to get a win-win on the lease. You got to learn how to negotiate your leases. And
here's one on the leases: is set expectations. I know I interrupted you.
You're fine.
But let's say a tenant's at $14, and you're thinking you want to get them to, $15. Send them the renewal at $18. Right? Crush their spirit right there in the beginning, and then when you back off that $18 when they complain to $15, they're like, "Man, he really worked with me."
Yeah, right.
Called anchoring.
Good point.
Okay, so
you'd know if you read the book.
It's a lot of little things like that. Well, you have to. It's like playing poker or chess, even where you're setting up a couple of moves ahead of time. Yeah. You're thinking, okay, how do I get them to my number? What's the best way to get them to my number? And it's about managing their expectations. Yeah. Maybe figuring out a way to meet some of their needs that they've expressed they're unhappy with. But you got to be 2 steps ahead of whoever you're negotiating with.
You can't just put 15 out there because then that's the number they're going to negotiate off of.
Now,
if they're negotiating off of 18, then, or you're negotiating whoever, then it's much easier to get the 15 you want.
Also, it's like raising in poker. It's once you hit that 18 button, you get to find out where they are. If they say, okay, 17, you've already won. You're ahead of where you thought you wanted to be. Or if they say, hey, we're out of here. We're out. That is, now you gain some information that you don't have leverage here, that they are willing to walk, and so you can adjust.
Right.
But if you just go up 3% or 15%, and I've been guilty of doing all these things, you haven't gained any information on what they could have paid.
Yeah. Right.
And you may have left a lot of money on the table. And most people leave a lot of money on the table because they're worried what people will think when they give them a high number. Oh, I don't want to come in too high. I don't want to make them mad. Yeah. Well, you're not a good negotiator then. Stop.
Yeah.
Go read some books if you don't want to make anybody mad in negotiating, because you're not going to maximize value unless you're willing to make people uncomfortable. Yeah. Or be uncomfortable yourself.
I remember this one retrade we did, and we got like $300,000 or $400,000, right? But we were thinking we were going to get like 100, maybe 200,000, and we got it, and we were just like, shit, we should have asked for more.
Yeah, right.
He just said yes.
Yeah, he said yes way too. If they say yes way too easily and way too fast, you left something on the table.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, so you got the book there. It's one of the points that we wrote down that both Brian and I were talking about. Never split the difference. Splitting the difference, once again, makes you comfortable.
It's easy.
It's easy. And if you're comfortable in negotiating, you're not maximizing value.
It's fair.
Yeah, it's fair. And you know what? Don't convince yourself that splitting the difference is fair. Just because they asked one number and you asked another number does not mean the number in the middle is fair.
Yeah, right.
Fair to who?
It's like all of the price increases, due to increased costs, your price has gone up. They're not splitting the difference with me. Like, hey, coffee went up a whole $1. We're covering 50 cents. We ask that you cover the other 50 cents. No, of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not.
I'll give people an example of in Oklahoma when they're buying a personal home. And let's say you're asking $400,000 and someone comes in and they offer, $370,000. And you come down to $295,000, just being a good negotiator. And they try to split the difference between, $370,000 and $395,000. If you take that, you're an idiot, because people don't make offers on homes that they're going to live in. They don't make offers on homes and then walk over $10,000. They've decided that's a home they want their family to be in.
No, they picked out where the picture frames.
That's right. Go. And so, but I see it all the time. These homeowners like, we just want to get it. What if they walk? They're not walking. If you're within a few percentage points, they're not walking, but they split the difference with them all the time. And I would never do that.
Yeah. The last house I sold, let's say it was $400,000 and they were at $380,000. We'd been coming down and down. And my last offer, let's say, was $400,000, and they gave me an offer. The next offer I sent in was $400,000 again, to let them know that's it. Yeah. You better come to $400,000 or we're done. And
most of the time, they've already decided when they go through to make an offer. They've already decided.
They fall in love with the house.
That's right.
I wish I was buying houses when you guys were. When I bought a house, it was listed at $400,000, and we went in at $405,000.
Yeah, it's a little bit different market lately.
Braden's not such a good negotiator. His house was $400,000 and he paid $405,000.
Yeah, don't even listen to him. He's lucky he has us.
I know. Okay. Next point, which we use all the time, you should be using all the time, to maintain your relationships, right? Like we talked about a win-win. We talked about people feeling like they have a win, feeling like they have a good connection. But sometimes there's got to be a bad guy, at the end of the day. Hey, we need what we need. The property needs what it needs. Your lease needs what it needs. So good cop, bad cop, right? So if you've got a property manager, the property manager is always the good cop. Yeah, right. Let's just clarify that. And we talked about that in the previous episode about lease negotiations more specifically. But the property manager is their best friend. Like, yeah, this landlord, I've told him this grease trap needs to be cleaned out. I don't know why he's not doing it or whatever it is. Somebody's got to be there to, hey, I empathize with you. I hear you. You just need, 25 basis points on this. Let me go to him. We'll talk it out. Yeah. And then you come back. Yeah, you probably didn't even call anybody. You probably didn't talk to anybody. Yeah, I don't know. I tried to tell him we can do 5 basis points, or we can split that cost with you. Or, man, the lease is just, it says the opposite. And, at the end of the day, this is what we both agreed to.
Or
the lease is the bad cop.
The good cop can be like, hey, the owner, he's got another couple tenants that he said he's got lined up. I'd really like you to stay. Yeah. It's all the pieces of information that the good cop can drop and not have it be confrontational. Yeah, right. And then they can also get an honest reaction from whoever they're negotiating with. Being a good cop, having that relationship, it doesn't have to work with just a lease. It can be on a purchase too. You always want to have somebody that seems agreeable to the purchaser or the seller, and then someone that's off in the distance, that's unreasonable, and this person is trying to bridge the gap. Only these people are on the same team, but you make that person feel like maybe that you're not on the same page. That it's such an effective negotiating strategy. I don't know what you're saying behind my back.
I was just saying, if there's a good cop and a bad cop, you're probably the bad cop. Is all I was saying.
It just depends. I've been the good cop before,
maybe once,
but it's always good to have both. And it doesn't even necessarily need to be someone that you're business partners with. We've done this, and people can say that it's
attorneys, accountants. I mean,
it's unethical, but if I'm making an offer on something, I can have you send in another offer that's lower than my offer just to soften them up for when my offer comes in. It doesn't look as bad as your offer. Right. There's a lot of tricks that we pull, and hey, I can offer whatever I want, and so can you, and so they don't have to take it. But psychologically, if they get a bunch of low offers, and my offer's up here, even though my offer's really low, it allows them to look at it in a different light. Yeah, true. And it's just all these tricks to help you maximize value for you and your company versus handing them the value.
Funny story. We were bidding on a property. It was a property I really wanted. And we were super close with another group, and they did a best and final. And somehow, some way, I was able to find out who the other group was. And I remember coming back to Joel and Vic at the time, and I'm like, hey, why don't we just call this other group and see where they're at? You know, we can probably get a better deal. Nobody else is bidding on it. We'll both drop our prices, and then we'll just split the deal in half. You know, we have half of the same deal we wanted. It's economically the same thing, just half, right? And we ended up doing that. We went with the other group and both dropped out and formed this new company and offered in that one company. And it put a lot of pressure on the seller because they went from having competition on a deal with people bidding against each other. You know, oh, we need a best and final. We need you to blindly raise your price, and whoever the highest one is in a sealed envelope gets it, which is never how it actually is, right? They're always pitting you back and forth against each other, just driving the price up. You're like, the hell with that. We didn't end up and get the deal then. So it
Did the seller know that you guys did that, or
we did disclose it.
Okay.
Yeah, we did disclose it because I was kind of on the fence about it. The other partners we had were very clear that they wanted to disclose it. And anyway.
What else? Anything else?
Last point is joint venture deals. You're doing a deal with another group, right? So this is a massive proposition, and I know we've talked about Shark Tank before when people are arguing over 2 or 3% or whatever, but when a deal is presented to you, it's never where it is when it's closed, right? Hey, this is, we need money in this deal, or hey, we need you to find the debt for this deal, and we'll give you this. It's like, well, just forget about that. They're just trying to anchor you at some point super low to make you feel like that's what they're willing to pay. And just tell them, hey, I would do that, but I would do it for this. Yep. I would find that debt, but I would charge this point. I would loan this money, but I would need these fees. I would invest in that, but I need these controls, and I think so much of the time is from a consumer sense. On the consumer side, you don't go to Walmart and negotiate. You don't go to a car dealership, and especially now, negotiate on a lot of stuff. There used to be more wiggle room and stuff and more haggling, but as a regular consumer, you don't do a lot of negotiating. You don't negotiate with your electric provider, utilities, or more. Like, you rarely do anything. That's why people are so bad and just splitting the difference, because they don't know. But in these joint venture deals, or when you're doing any sort of partnership with somebody else, right? And we've done a lot of them. Real estate inherently is a new partnership. Every single deal, sometimes it's 2 deals, whatever. You've got to negotiate. You've got to push back, right? Mm-hmm. It's normal. It's completely normal from every person's side. There's investors who say, hey, is there any chance to negotiate these terms? Unfortunately, on ours, there isn't, because they're just split up into so many different investors. But if one investor came to me and they said, hey, I'll take the whole thing, I may change that split a little bit. Right. It's a little easier on my end. The value proposition has changed a little bit. Mm-hmm. Or maybe you're going into a deal and they have something and you can immediately make the deal better. You should negotiate for that, right? Like, I want an extra 5% of this company or 5% of the upside because I'm bringing in this better loan, or because I'm making your life easier, and then we're all going to be spending less time and making more money on the same project. They should give it to you, right? So just don't immediately give in.
Yeah, so the last thing I'll say then as we finish up, that's a good point, by the way, is that you want to be a hard negotiator. You don't want to negotiate from a place of fear. You want to get all the information to give you power and leverage. But at the end of the day, you also don't want to negotiate yourself out of every deal. And some people are master negotiators and they never give in and they never buy anything. Yeah. And so you don't have to get rich on every single deal or every single partnership. You want to maximize value, but the more deals you do and the more people you do it with, the more successful you're going to be. So at the end of the day, I think the biggest takeaway is win-win, is try to be effective in getting what you want and allowing other people involved in the transaction to get what they want. And the more deals you do, the richer you'll get.
I would say we've all heard you've made your money on the buy. I think that's just in all of these examples. Yeah. You should know the deal and you should negotiate your money and your profit up front. I mean, it's got to be up front. It's never at the end. It's never, oh, we made all this money. Actually, I need more of that. Like, well, pound sand.
Yeah,
man.
Right.
Anyway, thanks for watching the show. Thanks for tuning in, listening, liking, subscribing, sharing. If you haven't already, don't forget to go to the website, howtoinvestinCRE.tv, the CriterionFund.com, PrecisionEquity.com. All of those, you can sign up for our investor list. We're regularly sending out deals. They're regularly selling out insanely fast, so you have to answer those emails fast. But I would imagine we'll do at least another one, hopefully 2, maybe even 3 before the end of the year.
Hope so.
But
Checks are out in a little over a month.
Checks are out a little over a month. We're going to send another, almost $1 million?
We're going to send it out.
Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next, guys. Or we will see you next week on how to invest in commercial real estate.